All right. Welcome to Webinar for Busy Lawyers. We're so glad to have you with us today. My name is Laura. I'm a law practice advisor at Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers, and this is our Webinar for Busy Lawyers series. We do this as part of our free and confidential services for legal professionals across Massachusetts. We know that you are very busy with your practices, and so we have these seminars to give you some issues they may be grappling with and some information and practical takeaways. We will have time for questions after the presentation and encourage you to put your questions in the chat. In the meantime, I'm delighted to introduce our speaker today, Nadine Ezzie. Nadine is a legal transformation consultant and attorney. She has almost 20 years of unique legal and related experience working at the intersection of law, innovation, and technology. She was recruited by a large-scale commercial real estate developer to serve as its general counsel. She pivoted to the legal tech world, and she has founded Ezzie company to combine her experiences to provide a unique end-to-end professional service experience to the commercial real estate world. She's a first-generation daughter of Lebanese immigrants and a native Clevelander. She currently calls Boston home. So Nadine, we are so glad that you are here to talk about future-proofing legal practices today and utilizing tech and innovation. With this, I will turn the presentation over to you, and then we'll have time for questions at the end.
Thank you so much. I should start calling you on the days that I feel like I've accomplished nothing and have you read that back to me. Thank you. But I guess I have done a thing or two. So thank you, Laura, so much. Thanks everyone for who's out there and for joining. As Laura said, today I am here to present a very high level roadmap on how to future-proof your legal function. This is intended to be both for law firms and for in-house legal departments as well. So for that reason, I'm going to keep it at a very high level, but also call out certain distinctions when appropriate. So the goal of this today will be to provide a very high level roadmap where folks can start thinking about changes that if they haven't already been making them, to drive efficiencies within their legal functions and to also future-proof their practices as well. Again, not only to survive today, but to thrive tomorrow. So let's dive in. Oh, okay, so as Laura just stated in my bio, thank you again, Laura, I am a former general counsel and I am currently running my own firm. So I have the unique perspective of having served in both capacities to be able to provide guidance to the folks that I work with as well. I also took a pause from that for about 4 years of being a practicing attorney, and I actually joined a legal tech company. I was an early employee, and so I worked in the capacity of that role with both in-house counsel and outside counsel on what originally was supposed to be successful adoption of our tech platform, but quickly became apparent to me that it needed to be on process optimization as well. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. You cannot have successful tech adoption unless you first lay the foundation using process management and optimization. And as Laura stated, I'm currently advising legal teams on innovation strategy, operations, and efficiency. So today, I'm going to start by presenting you with the current state of not only our legal industry, but technological innovation as well. Explain a little bit to you about why this matters and why this should matter to all of us. We'll then start with a very high level of best practices that folks can keep in mind as they're starting this mind shift journey of utilizing innovation. I'll go into some solutions as well. These are both going to be methodology based as well as automation and tech based. So we're not going to be talking just about technology today. And then I would be doing you all a disservice if I didn't have you all leave here with open eyes about some challenges and limitations that you can probably expect on this journey, but that are certainly not insurmountable by any means. Okay, so let's start with the current state. No doubt about it, we are in the midst of a technological revolution. When I say technological revolution, this is akin to the industrial revolutions that we learned about when we were in school. And this should probably come as no surprise to anybody. We've all heard of AI, artificial intelligence. A lot of folks think that with the release of ChatGPT, which I'm sure everybody has heard of in November of just last year, that AI is something new. To the contrary, this has been around for decades. I think actually 60 years AI has been being worked on and modified, actually right here in our backyards at MIT as well, which I believe is the home base of AI, so to speak. The only thing now is that it is being released commercially into the world. And again, I've mentioned ChatGPT. That is the most notorious and well-known example of an AI chatbot actually that utilizes AI that's in the market today. Again, though, AI is also being embedded and included in a number of phenomenal legal tech tools that are designed to drive efficiencies and capture very critical data about your practices. These enable us as attorneys to provide clients with much better service. So speaking of our clients, today's clients, and this should come as a surprise to nobody here, are demanding more of us. And this comes as an example with our response to alternative fee arrangement agreements in response to more creative and efficient billing practices. They're also demanding more increased business acumen. You know, gone are the days of in-house counsel being able to say, oh, that's a business decision, right? The demands on in-house counsel and on outside counsel as well are increasingly to be that more that of a true business partner as well, and not just somebody that can call out legal risks or help with legal strategy. So why does this matter? Most of us were trained when we think way back to law school on precedent and risk litigation with little emphasis on innovative or creative thinking. But as I just stated, clients are demanding more. The industry is going to be demanding more and expecting more of us. So we can all come together and respond to the demands of today's clients by embracing these tools, by using these tools. And by doing so, it's going to create a competitive advantage for you, for your department, for your firm, and be able to assist you in responding to the increased demands of our legal counsel. And I am telling you today, it is going to determine who survives this current technological revolution we're in, and who will thrive tomorrow. So I know a lot of folks are hearing, oh, lawyers are going to be replaced by AI, or paralegals are going to be replaced by AI. It's not so much a replacement, but it's going to distinguish who embraces it and uses it versus who doesn't, and who will survive. So again, it's not really, I think it's very important to make that distinction of not a survival mindset, or excuse me, replacement mindset, but a survival mindset. So I know that sounds a little grim, but in a little bit, I'll tell you that there's many tools at our disposal to be able to tackle all of this. So anyway, still don't believe me? Gartner, I think we've all heard of an organization called Gartner, has predicted that by 2024, that's next year, in case anybody is wondering, we're in 2023, legal departments will have automated 50% of legal work for major corporate transactions, 50%. Moreover, Goldman Sachs is predicting that generative AI could automate 44% of legal tasks in the United States. Now, that doesn't have a predictive time frame on it, but everything I'm reading out there is suggesting 5 years. The next 5 years is where legal professionals are really going to start to have to modifying our mindsets, modifying the methods that we've been using to provide client services, and to step up our games. Again, the bottom line is that the way we show value to our clients must change. So how do we do that? So, sorry, folks, I'm a huge It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan. Charlie Day is one of my best characters, so I could not resist. So, but anyway, we're going to start with some best practices. So before we even get into any process methodology tools or automation tools, it's very critical for us as attorneys to kind of start shifting our mindsets, right? We've been trained on the billable hours, the review of documents, manual review of documents, manual entry of data, whether it relates to billing or whatnot. But we're now being invited and asked of our clients and of industry to shift our mindsets. As I said, to think more creatively, bigger picture. And ways that we can start doing that is, we've already talked about embracing of technology. We're going to go into that a little bit more in a second. Creating agile work environments, whether you're in a legal department, in-house, or in a law firm. Agile methodology has been around for years. It's used with tech companies that are developing software, where essentially, they develop something small, release it, get feedback, reiterate and pivot, just pivot, constantly being agile, getting feedback and pivoting. Agile work environments take that mindset, and it relates to how we work. So the best example of that is hybrid work environments, right? That is a very good example of an agile work environment. it's the description of an environment that is agile enough to respond to the constantly changing needs of its clients and also of its employees as well. Using technology such as communication tools is going to further support these agile work environments. Another best practice is process management. We're going to go into that in depth here in a moment. I'll skip over that. Knowledge management. How easy is it for folks in your department and in your firm to find information, internal information, templates, client information, signed contracts? Is everybody looking in different locations and constantly having to ping somebody, hey, do you know where I can find a copy of this? Do you know where I can find a copy of that? I think if we all took a step back and just took a couple minutes and tried to calculate in our minds how much time and how much brain power is spent on these type of things, where if we could eliminate all that and put a knowledge management system in place, whether it's a software where everything is centralized or a SharePoint or wherever, think of the time that could free up. So that's critical as well. Data analytics, there's data constantly flowing through your department and your firm, whether it's time it takes to complete tasks, client satisfaction, etc. So embracing a mindset of data analytics and how you can harness data to provide better service to your clients is going to be important. And then clear communication channels as well. So now let's go a little bit more narrow. So I'm going to pause for a second. We started off with an industry outlook, not only on the legal side, but on the technological side. We then kind of narrowed our scope a little bit to some mind shift best practices that we can start thinking about. And now I'm going to take it just a little bit more narrow and start to mention some examples of some solutions that you can start doing today to lay the foundation of a future-proof legal function. So the very first one, I always say, before anything else should even be thought of, is process management. In my opinion, process management is the foundation of any essential legal function, whether you are in a law firm, whether you are in an in-house legal department. It is just as important as the quality of the documents themselves that you are producing. So what do I mean by process management? This is where we're identifying, we're analyzing, and we're constantly improving the workflows that guide the information that goes through our firms and also externally to our clients. So it's making sure that you have a consistent, well-defined process for everything that goes on throughout your function. So how do we do this? We're evaluating current processes, or we're even creating processes, initially. We're identifying areas for optimization, and we're implementing necessary changes. So this is constantly. Why does this matter? What are some of the benefits that not only you, but your clients can expect from having consistent process management? Enhanced efficiency. You're going to save time. Okay. If everybody is marching to the beat of the same drum over and over and over again, you're naturally just going to drive consistencies and efficiencies in that process. You're going to reduce costs. Less time means less cost spent, which means more time that can be freed up to generate revenue. You're going to also ensure consistent and high quality legal services. Okay, so think about any service provider you as a consumer might call for any type of help, right? And each time you call, it is just a different process every single time. You have no idea what to expect. Is this going to be a good experience, or is this going to be a negative experience? Compare that to a service provider where you just can count on the type of experience you're going to get from them. You know it's going to be consistent, you know it's going to be high quality, and you know there's a high likelihood that your problem is going to be solved. That is another benefit as well of process management, not only internally for your internal stakeholders, but externally for your clients as well. So I highly, highly recommend that folks that have not undertaken a practice of process management in their practices to start doing so today. Identify, the main workflows that are happening and start defining processes. And if you already have processes, take a look at them. Talk to the folks that are involved with each touch point of that process management and see if there's areas for improvement. Some example of processes are intake, file closeout, contract review, outside counsel selection, just to name a few. Okay, so I spent a little bit of time on that because, again, that is the foundation. That is the fundamental foundation of any future-proof legal function. So let's move on to law firm and department management solutions. Now we're getting into the software realm. And again, this can apply both to law firms or in-house legal departments. So what these are, and I am a big fan of these, are platforms that centralize the operations of either your law firm or your legal department. And I would wager that a lot of folks on the call today are already using one. We're going to talk about those in a minute. So some of the features that you can think of, this is a centralized location, internal. Some of them have external client portals as well, but the main objective is a centralized platform where everybody in your firm or everybody in your legal department can log in and rest assured that they're going to get certain information from here. So features, again, some of these integrate externally. You can do client intake using one of these platforms. You can automate process checklists. You can put all of your checklists for various tasks that need to be completed. Billing can occur from these platforms, task management, and also communications. So instead of going back and forth with emails or with Slack or with Teams, communications can all be centralized in one of these platforms and can also be tagged to matters as well or to clients. So again, some of the benefits, which I've already talked about, centralized location. This is the biggest one for the critical functions of your firm or your department. And again, this is going to result in the reduction of time it takes to find things or doing things inconsistently. And it's again, also going to lead to the reduction of error. So some examples of some platforms for law firms: Clio, MyCase, and Practice Panther are three of the biggest ones. And I would not be surprised if folks on this call are using one of those three. And then for in-house legal departments, Bright Flag is a great one, as well as Simple Legal and Lawcadia. And again, it's also worth noting, I have no affiliations with any of these organizations. I've just had the pleasure of demoing all of them. And I know sometimes it's trying to find a needle in a haystack, knowing where to begin. So again, just providing some recommendations for folks to get started. So then moving on, oh, too fast. Okay, so we talked about process management, which again does not need to involve technology at all. Again, it could just be the process of documenting consistent processes for your firm or department. But if you want to take that a step further, let's say you've had the foundation in place for a while and you think further efficiencies can be gained with the use of technology, this is where workflow automation is going to come in. So these are tools, software tools, that will take your existing processes and automate them to drive either further efficiencies and drive consistency. So you can do this for contract approval processes or for just workflows in general that aren't necessarily associated with a document. So some of the features you can expect in using these tools: the creation of automated approval chains. So you can enter the chain of approval, and if a particular point is not checked off by somebody, the system will actually not allow you to move forward to the next step, which is very nice. You've got that safeguard built in. Notifications and reminders as well. Again, a notification that perhaps a step is due in 2 days, or a reminder that a step was due 2 days ago. So what are some of the benefits that users can expect by using these? Again, this is going to ensure that if we're using it for contract workflows, contracts are going to progress through their appropriate stages consistently. Steps aren't going to be skipped, but also smoothly and in a timely manner. And the same would apply for workflows as well. Some examples: Streamline.ai is a newer one. I am a big fan of that. It's very user-friendly, very customizable as well. And you can add as many workflows in there as your firm or department requires. Big fan of that. Two other ones that are worth noting are LawView and Tompion. Okay, so then a next bucket of tools that are solutions that should be worth discussing are document assembly tools. So again, I say tools, these are software tools. These are going to focus specifically on the creation of your contracts or documents using predefined templates and backup clauses. So this is going to allow users to quickly generate contracts by selecting the template, number one, that they need, that's going to be stored in there. So no more searching around for which template to use. You're going to have your template stored in there. And then you're also going to be able to select relevant clauses or variables and information to plug in to the document as well. So the benefits are numerous with these types of tools. Again, the fact that your language and your templates are stored in one location, you're going to have assurance that everything is centralized and managed. Folks aren't going to be working off of different versions, version control, consistency, and you're going to have compliance across all of your contracts. You don't have to worry about different contracts being used for different deals. Some examples here, a couple that have been around for a while: Hot Docs. I'm sure everybody on here has heard of Hot Docs. This is the document assembly tool that I know many folks have been using successfully. Contract Express, which I believe is owned by Thomson Reuters. Litera has been around for a while, and a newer one that I just saw demoed for the first time last year is Avoca. This is phenomenal. I would definitely recommend folks take a look at Avoca as well. Am I in time? Okay, good. And then the last two buckets now is where we're getting a little bit more complex, but hey, the sky, let's shoot for the stars. The sky is the limit. Contract lifecycle management tools. These are probably going to be more relevant for in-house teams that tend to generate higher volumes of contracts. That's not to say that it wouldn't be relevant for larger law firms as well. So these are software platforms providing end-to-end contract management solutions. So we're talking drafting, negotiation, approval workflows, version control, e-signature, and analytics. So again, basically a platform that's going to track the entire life cycle of a contract and the data that's associated with that. So the benefits that you can expect by implementing a contract lifecycle management platform, you're going to automate various stages of what are usually very lengthy contract life cycles. You're going to enhance efficiency and reduce manual tasks associated with that. But you're also going to basically bring your contract to life, as opposed to being housed in a two-dimensional document where you can't really do anything with the information in there. Using these platforms is going to extract that data in a very usable way for you. So a couple of examples are Ironclad, Contract Pod, AI, and Icertis. And last but not least for solutions is natural language processing. These are going to be some of the most complex AI-driven solutions out there. These allow for extraction and analyzation of data directly from documents, which can then generate reports, whether it's on keep clauses or whatnot. So these allow for the bulk upload of contracts for review in a fraction of the time. I read a case study where a firm needed to have 200, 100 plus documents reviewed. This probably would have taken their team at least a week, maybe, to be able to review all of these documents and be able to extract the information that was necessary. Using one of these tools, the same 200 documents were uploaded, and within 2 to 3 hours, that work was done, consistent reports were generated, and the team was then able to use those reports for whatever analysis was necessary. Some examples here, we have Co-Counsel, which is a module of case text. If anybody's reading legal tech news, a geek like me, case text was just acquired by Thomson Reuters for $650 million this week. So that is a great, phenomenal tool. LexCheck, Evisort, and Link Squares are all examples of that. And last but not least, before I open up to questions, again, there are going to be some challenges. Not everybody is going to come skipping along happy and ready to do this. So a couple of them, you're going to need stakeholder buy-in to even begin these processes. So that's critical. So you need to make sure that all of the right folks, whether it's on your executive leadership team or whatnot, are bought into this, because any roadmap to transformation is going to require top-down support. So if you don't have it from the top, stop right there until you do. User adoption and change management. Folks are used to doing things the way that they've been doing them for years. Change takes time. So just going in knowing that things aren't going to happen overnight, and it's going to take time to get to change people's habits and ways in order for them to adopt new ways of doing things. If you do go the route of some of the tools that I recommended, sometimes implementations can be a little tricky, and they can be a bit complex. It's a new process for folks to undertake. So just something to be aware of. Customization and flexibility. Not all tools are customizable or flexible for your documents. Some are, some not. So it's going to depend on how much flexibility you as an organization or firm wish, and then how willing the tool might be to be able to work with you. Data quality and extraction. If anybody's going to go the very complex route of using one of the natural language processing tools I just mentioned, these are still tools being built. Nothing is 100% perfect. So there will need to be a human element of verification until such time that these tools have reached a level of very high reliability, right, for the quality of data that's coming out. And legal and regulatory compliance, last but not least. This is a newly evolving field in terms of AI and tools. And so compliance is going to be something that's going to be need to be on the back of our mind. Two final things to just keep in mind before I open it up for questions, which I think I have a couple minutes, is, as attorneys, the ABA model rules, we all make sure that we go to our ethics, get our ethics credits, every time our licenses are up for renewal. And in the ABA model rules make it very clear that we as attorneys have an ethical obligation to use any and all tools readily at our disposal for the zealous advocacy and representation of our clients. So it is getting harder and harder to reject the notion that we don't have to use these tools anymore. And it's now really going to become a must-have for all of us. So something to keep in mind. And also use of any of these tools or methods, right? We were talking about process management, is going to increase a consistent client experience. So, and it's going to make your clients want to come back to you more and more and work with you. Again, they can predict what that experience is going to be like. They can predict it's going to be smooth and consistent, and they too can find information easier. This is all going to lend to a more consistent client experience. It's going to even further give you that greater competitive edge in the industry. And so with that, that is my presentation. So I'll open up to Q&A.
Nadine, this was wonderful. Thank you so much. These are challenging topics, and you really laid out the landscape very well of a lot of the emerging tools that lawyers can use. I want to touch on a few of the things that you noted across the different fields about how this can facilitate ease of information sharing within the firm. It can make you more responsive to clients. It reduces data entry. It reduces manual doc review. It can reduce errors. And really help you embrace modern practices as you're using some of these tools. So thank you so much. I see that we have some questions who are coming in. Our first one.
Wow.
Yes. So one of them we have is, how are firms billing for services augmented with these tools? I have some thoughts. I can start if you'd like, or if you have some thoughts ready.
Go for it. And that's from Cheryl. I think Cheryl's the second question as well.
Yes.
Go for it.
For billing for services, Cheryl, so first of all, some of these are for people who are not going to be doing hourly billing models, such as if you are an in-house service and you're looking to use contract lifecycle management, then that is something that you can use as an internal tool. For other ones, you may be thinking, if I'm going to be doing things faster with this technology, how will this work? Well, not everybody does hourly billing. If, say, you're going to be using templates and you're going to be creating a lot of your documents and pleadings faster, you may want to have some flat fee services, especially if you're doing transactional work. Some firms do hybrid work. It all depends on what you want. But as people are using these tools to create work that is being done much faster, they usually are going away from the hourly billing model towards subscription models, towards flat fee, towards hybrid and other things. So those are some of the ways it can augment your services. And also this can take time away from your non-billable administrative work. So that can mean you're faster and then able to spend more time on billable work. Nadine, over to you to the question of how firms billing for services are augmented with these tools.
Right. Yeah. So this is where the human touch should still come in. So again, and I think that's where there's a lot of misunderstanding. We shouldn't turn everything over to these tools or AI 100%. We should use them to get us 80% of the way, right? And then bring in that human component to verify the accuracy or the reliability, as Cheryl asked. So you're still going to save time. You're still going to save mental bandwidth of the person or people that are doing the review. But I think it's pretty obvious how much you can cut that down in time. So it's going to require a hybrid approach of utilizing these tools for a majority of the way, but then also bringing in folks towards the end for simply verification and reliability. And there's going to be a transition period as well. Like, we just need to be very clear about that. There's going to be a transition period where there might be more human oversight until such time that you can get to the point where you're like, okay, we're rocking and rolling.
That's great. And Nadine, I appreciated how you built on our second question about firms auditing or verifying reliability or accuracy of the output of AI augmented products. Just to add to that, for the questioner as well, you want to make sure that you're using the right tool. A lot of lawyers have been scared by, there was a firm in New York where people, they were using AI, ChatGPT, it hallucinated some case citations. If the firm had used any legal research tool, they would have been able to see that those cases don't exist. So I think part of verifying reliability of these is also thinking back to, can I use my legal research tool? What other tools can I use to rely on? Nadine, other thoughts to add to that before we go to the next question?
That's great. I have nothing else to add on that.
All right. Our next question is, what do you think about Teams and Slack for internal communication?
I think it's fine with a big caveat, so long as everybody is only using Teams or only using Slack, or couple that with very set expectations as to when those communications are supposed to be used, right? So more often than not, a lot of folks have Teams, but they don't know when they use it. Sometimes they'll put something in Teams, or maybe the other person isn't checking Teams. So it's going to, I think it's great. I'm all for internal communication tools that are going to enable further collaboration and communication. But you also need, again, have a policy or a workflow around when these tools are supposed to be used, what types of communication should go in them, who should be checking there versus when. Are we only going to use Teams now and only, for the everything in email, just for the distribution of documents or whatever? So what's really exciting is that we have full autonomy to define how this is going to work for us. We just have to be consistent and set expectations around it.
I agree. Teams and Slack, yeah, can be great. They allow you, for example, to have threads on certain topics. If you want to add people into the discussion, it's easier than trying to add onto an email chain. But as Nadine notes, just have it set up for expectations within your firm. When do you use Teams? When do you use Slack? For what sort of communications are people going to be checking there? So that way they don't have to check Teams plus email plus potentially your process management, whatever tools you're using. Our next question is, what is the impact of these developments on solo practice attorneys?
Really quick, the biggest one is increased bandwidth, and I'm a solo practitioner now myself for the first time in my career, right? So we're doing it all. So if you think about it, instead of manually having to do, intake or something like that, you can set something up from your website, where somebody enters, the contact us and their information. You can integrate it with one of these really awesome platforms that's immediately going to open the matter, right? In whatever firm management that you're using, send them an automated email back that says, thank you for contact. If you, the options are just, the opportunity are endless. So the biggest impact that I see is increased bandwidth and allowing solo practitioners to go out and get more work and do more work, as opposed to spending their time on these kind of manual, administrative, non-billable matters. So that's the biggest one for me. Laura, do you have anything to add to that?
I do. I think that it really is going to allow solos and small firms to compete more. For example, I'm part of the Mass Bar Association, the Law Practice Management Solo Small Practice Section Council. And for this coming year, we're going to really be focusing on how solos and small firms can use tech more to compete. And there's so many tools you can do it with. If you're automating your intake, if you're using law practice management systems, if you're interested in document assembly or document automation, some of these tools aren't built for solos. Some will have licenses of 5 or more, but there are some great tools for solos that are affordable that will really allow you to be much more efficient with practice. Our next question is, it's a comment. Thank you for introducing the many examples of tools and technologies. Do you know how the workflow automation and document assembly tools that you have mentioned compare to the workflow functions and document template functions? This here. In law practice management software such as MyCase and Clio? So that's a complicated question. Nadine, do you want to start?
I'll start with the most obvious one, is that think about it as a la carte versus tasting menu, right? So Clio, in my case, are for folks that are looking for multiple solutions all in one, such as the document template storage, such as the workflow automation, such as billing, et cetera. Other folks don't need all that, and they don't want all that. And this could be one, solo practitioners don't want. Maybe somebody is just looking for a workflow automation tool or just looking for a document automation tool. That's where the distinction would come in. And again, it's a reminder, we have choices. We get to be creative. We get to decide what works best for us. And there's no shortage of tools at our disposal. So that's really just the biggest distinction between those, is what do you need versus what do you not need.
Those are great points, Nadine. I like how you compared it with the tasting menu versus if you want to go focus on something as a main dish. I would note for everyone to really think about what your priorities are for your firm. Everybody is going to be different on what their priority pain points are. You know, do you really want to work on something for document assembly? Is that one of your main tools? Or do you want sort of a more overall law practice management system? And if you don't know, you can always come talk to us at Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers. We do free consultations with people regarding their questions, and that helps in point to figuring out what are some of your pain points, how do those translate into features, and then from that, what are some tech options that you can look at. But it all depends on priorities and budgets for different lawyers. Our next question is, what do you know or think about AI technologies for law firms to use for drafting pleadings and litigations, such as ChatGPT, Spellbook? Any thoughts and recommendations? So they mentioned ChatGPT and Spellbook, but I think what they're more asking, if they're looking for drafting pleadings, would be to use tools for natural leading processing, such as co-counsel by case text, which, as you mentioned, Nadine, was recently bought by Thomson Reuters. Do you want to talk about how those tools work?
To start with a big, I never litigated. I am a corporate lawyer from day one, contracts and whatnot. So what I can say very, very high level, and then turn it over to you, Laura, is that you referenced ChatGPT. Who is this? This is Leah. So Spellbook, case text, all of these are specifically designed to assist with litigation type documents. Whereas I would warn of the use of ChatGPT. Again, I'm not a litigator, never have. I would warn against the use of ChatGPT, again, just because litigation and pleadings are so specific. References, are very critical. I use ChatGPT in contract drafting, but in a very generic way. And here's an example. I specialize in commercial real estate. If I'm working on a lease and I need a clause, and I could either start drafting the clause from scratch, or what I do is I go to ChatGPT and ask it to draft the clause for me. I don't put any confidential client information in there, anything like that. It's very good in that way for me. I don't know if that value would translate over to litigation and pleadings. I think it's much different. But I would say that the tools that are specifically designed to assist litigators, such as Spellbook and case text, are definitely worth looking into. Laura, do you have anything on that?
Agree. You want to be very careful that you're using tools for legal professionals, and if you're a litigator, using it specifically for litigators. As she mentioned, ChatGPT, it's too new, its universe is too wide. You don't want to rely on that, especially since it's known to hallucinate cases. Part of these AI as well is you want to think about what is the universe that they're drawing from for its context. Some of them, like case text, have a contained universe, and it's all just, you can think of it as its library of cases that is drawing from. So that is much more reliable. ChatGPT is drawing from largely the internet at large. So you want to think about if it's AI that is based on a contained universe, and some are looking to develop that as well. I think that Net Documents is one of them, that they are looking to develop it for more contained universes for, general counsel things to use, versus if it is something where you don't know where the content has come from, you just want to be very careful. And as I would especially say to always check the citations, because where these AI tools to date in their early stages have been known to hallucinate a lot of citations, that is that they make up citations. So you always want to make sure that they're there. And that goes back to the verification and using your legal research tools. But agree, be very careful and use things particularly for litigators. And even with that, just verify before you cite cases to put them in a brief. All right, our next question.
Really quick.
Yes.
The easiest way to remember everything that Laura just so wonderfully described to us is garbage in, garbage out. So as Laura just said, these are models that are trained on data that is ingest into it. And so ChatGPT is trained on everything that's out there, whereas these tools that are designed specifically for litigators are trained on data that has been vetted, right? That these are accurate citations and cases. So the quality of the data that's input into the model, whichever model you choose to use, is going to depend greatly on the quality of information that comes out. So garbage in, garbage out.
Thank you so much. Beautifully, Nadine. Our next question is, what tools are economical and affordable for solos and small firms? I would say, again, for the tools, what is your main tool that you first are wanting to go for? Some places that solos and small firms, can start. I would say, look at what you're already paying for. So for example, if you already have a Microsoft 365 subscription, or if you already have a Google Workspaces subscription, are you using the booking tools within them such that it will save you time on scheduling so you don't have so many back and forths? Are you using its cloud storage for some easier document management? I would always say start with what you have. Beyond that, law practice management tools for solos and small firms, as Nadine mentioned, examples include but are not limited to, my case, Clio, Practice Panther, Rocket Matter. Those can be very good catch-all systems too to make law firms run a lot more efficiently. But it all depends on what sort of tools you're looking for, because there's a huge range out there. And before you pick a tool, you want to know what your pain point is, what you're trying to solve, and then look for features to solve that. Nadine, your thoughts?
Any better? That's great. Yeah, but the biggest piece of advice that I just want to plus one on that, Laura, is take a look at what you already have licensed to. That's the biggest one that a lot of folks have subscriptions to various tools and software and are only using 25% or, only what they're accustomed to, where there could be so much more available that you're already paying for. So I very much want to plus one that recommendation, Laura.
Very good. So I see also that we have some very tech-minded folks on as well. Emily, if you have thoughts to share on this, we'd be happy to have your thoughts join. For those of you who don't know, Emily was one of the presenters at the Women in Legal Tech Summit last year. So if she would like to talk, we're glad to have her on. If people have more questions, we're glad to have that as well. Nadine, for people that are starting out with this and they're starting to think about their process, I usually tell them to start where they're at. So for example, if they have a lot of incoming paper and they haven't scanned, one of the first workflows they can do is make sure all mail, that's scanned in, that they have a process with naming conventions, what it's going to be named as, and you can use tools with built-in within your scanners, such as a Fuji Scan Snap, to really automate what they're named, where they're put in. Again, scheduling and booking tools is another good place to start. What are some other easy process management tools you think that people, or steps, to really get them started if they may be more unfamiliar with this process?
Start where you are. Everybody's journey to transformation and an innovative way of operating is going to be different. And so I couldn't agree with that more. So, the biggest one that I can add to what you just said, and again, just being the contract attorney that I was processes for, whichever type of documents come through, your firm or your department. So I'm going to use the example of the legal department because that's where I'm primarily comfortable and that's where I've worked. But when, let's just use the example of an NDA, that could apply for a law firm as well. When an NDA comes in and needs to either be drafted or reviewed, what are the steps? Who does it go to? Is there a turnaround time that we want it turned back to the other side? All of these things. So you just need to get your team together and start having these conversations, right? And start asking, how do you do this process? Okay, now how do you do it? How do you do it? And that's number one, going to ask you if we're consistent. And folks are already going to know if we're consistent. I have these conversations with these teams all the time, and we'll sit around a table and I'll just start asking questions. And at the end of an hour, they'll be like, I feel like this was therapy. Because people are just like, because the follow-up question is, well, how does that work for you guys? Well, it's painful. Usually it's very painful and it causes friction in their daily processes. So I would also take a look at the documents that are coming in and out of the firm or the or the legal department, whether it's going back and forth between external clients or, internally to your internal business client, and try to standardize before even automating that process first. Consistent processes around that.
That's a great point, because consistency matters so much. And with that, they can start by maybe doing templates for things that they do all the time. So, or you can build up a clause library if you're a litigator and say, here are some clauses that typically go in these sorts of pleadings, and start to build those out. If you have intake, I've actually seen some firms where they still have people handwrite in the intake when people come in. How can you capture that electronically and then have it sync so that it will push to another system so you're not doing so much data duplication? I also know firms that still print out their pre-bills and have them reviewed, in red ink going around, and then they're mailed to clients. Think about how you can make that process more efficient. As Nadine said, some of these tools, have review checks such that for your pre-bills, you can have people, insert the billing time, capture it using these time tracking tools as you go. And then it can be reviewed by people. It can be electronically sent for these invoices, usually through a client portal, can be through electronic payment processes. So you're not having to do those extra steps of printing out the bills, marking them up, mailing them out, waiting for a check back. There's a lot of process improvements you can do. Just think about the steps you're going through and then how you can cut it down, make it more efficient. We have another comment, great program content and presentation. Thank you, Cheryl. Lee notes, I want to make sure this webinar and other previous ones are accessible online. Yes, Lee, so we will have this up online, hopefully tomorrow, if not by the end of the week. I will note that right now we're having LCL has two websites, lclma.org and masslowmap.org. We're in a transition process of trying to bridge those together. But yes, we will have these up on demand as part of the Webinars for Busy Lawyers series. And also, if you pre-registered in advance, you will get an access to this recording sent to you once it is put up. All right, we have another person. Thank you very much for your time. Excellent presentation. Thank you so much for your feedback, attendee. We very much agree. Nadine did an excellent job. So it looks like that we are wrapping up here. Nadine, again, thank you so much for this presentation. This was wonderful. I will note that our next webinars for Busy Lawyers, we're going to have one in July, date to be determined, on IOLTA. And then in August, on August 16th, on running your law practice as a business. And Nadine, closing thoughts on this again, and we're so glad that you were here with us today, and attendees, we're so glad that you had the time to spend with us on this too, on this important topic.
So much. I love being here. Thank you guys again for the forum. I would just leave you all with this, in that be honest with yourselves. If fear is a factor of not moving forward with any of these things, that is so common and that is so okay. But I assure you that it's something that we all need to start thinking about and doing. It's not something that we can put aside anymore. The time for change is here. But the good thing is, these things are here to help us. So, I understand the fear of being replaced and whatnot, but they're really here to remind us why we went to law school. Did we go to law school to manage to-do lists every day? No, we didn't. We went to law school to think big and creatively and strategically. And so by taking the time to go through this transformative process that I'm inviting you all to go through, not only will give you a competitive edge and ensure that your business will survive, but is also really going to, I assure you, awaken in you in a realization and a reminder of why you went to law school, to be an attorney. And I guarantee you it'll lead to greater professional satisfaction for you as well. So that's all I'll say.
That is wonderful. Agreed. So you don't have to be so fearful. You can look at it as delegating these tools to do more of the administrative work, the low-level work, so that you can really focus on that higher level work and why you went to law school. That's great. I see that we have someone who has, we have another wonderful comment. Thank you. And we have someone who raised their hand. Let me see if I can reach them to jump. Lay, yes, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't really mean that, but I was going to give a claim. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. So I was just giving a sum up, actually, but then there's no other expression to give. I have been recently thinking really hard about the process management, and I just don't know where to start. So I guess we can look online for that, or if LOMAP or the affiliated associated attorneys could shed some lights down the road, update on the website, for example, recommending some tools for the process management. That would be really helpful.
Sure. And Lee, I would say the best way to really talk about that is to come in for an LCL practice management consultation, and then we can go over whatever part of the process you or others in the call would want to talk about, with individually respect to your practice. So for example, if you want to start by updating the process for your intake or for your billing or for your drafting, whatever it may be, I can put the link in as well for scheduling. But I would say that that's probably the best place to start, because rather than starting you with more resources on the concept of process management, if you want to share with us, in consultation, how you'd like to refine your process, we can be a sounding board and help you build that out.
Well, thank you. I'm using my case, and that already provide a lot of assistance on the billings and intake. I love those features. I have
Good.
not been able to fully devote, I haven't been able to devote enough time to really utilize their workflow automation and document workflow automation, also document templates. But then the more I do, the more I realize I need.
Exactly. So I do, yeah, to your point, I do know that my case offers those tools. So it might be worth reaching out to whoever your representative at my case is as well. More often than not, they might set up an hour time with you see if they'll set. Actually, I would ask of it if I was you. Having been on the vendor side before, you're not going to get a no. So ask for that hour, see if they'll just give you a high level overview of how to set up what it is that you want to set up, ask them to record the Zoom call, and then you have something to go back and refer to help you get set up.
That's an excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do first.
You just got to carve the time out in your calendar though, Lee. Just carve out some time, maybe, an hour for the Zoom call and maybe an hour a day just for a week, where you promise yourself that you're going to go in and do whatever it is that you need to do. And I promise you it's going to totally pay off.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I see that we have another hand raised. So Emily, if you'd like to go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Nadine. This was excellent. Absolutely excellent. I agree with everything that was said here, and just want to echo what Laura said. When I was starting my practice, I started right out of law school about 10 years ago, and one of the first helping hands that I received was from LOMAP. So I'm a big fan of LOMAP and honored to be here today. This is difficult. I'm basically a solo for the most part, and I practice immigration law, which is high touch, particularly the type of immigration law that I do. A lot of communication, a lot of languages, a lot of moving parts to the federal government. So it's not easy. And in all practice areas, we all have our own special sauce that we have to worry about and manage on top of everything else we have to do as lawyers and as humans. So it's not easy. And this is a really interesting time. I echo what Nadine said. I just posted that on my Instagram story about the merger that was announced yesterday. I'm fresh off of the plane from the AILA, American Immigration Law Association annual conference. And a lot of the conversation was around technology, even though it was an immigration specific conference. Our keynote speaker was the CEO of Fastcase, Ed Walters, and I spent most of my time demoing in technology. And I learned on what day is it? That's what happens when you go to conferences. It's like a casino. You don't know what day or time it is. But let's put it this way. I learned, I think it was Thursday of last week, about technology that I didn't even know existed. and never mind could have imagined or had ideas was coming. I saw some technology that I felt like someone teleported me to 2025. And I don't say this to scare you. As someone who's really into technology, I'm still shocked and learning. I don't say it to intimidate you. I say it for this reason. We could spend our whole day learning all the new tech and the processes and improving them. And there are people who do that for a living. And that's not us if we're, for those of us who are practicing. But I echo what Nadine just said with find some time when you can work on these things. And the analogy that I is it's almost like spring cleaning your house. You do the whole thing in one day, you're probably going to get exhausted at your kitchen, give up, and you won't start again until next spring. So, there's a little bit you can do every day that can make a huge difference. Poco a poco for my Spanish speakers. I love that expression. But, little by little in English, same thing. But it, I would say this, if you're like, where do I start? Well, think about when you're spring cleaning your house, which room needs it the most and which room are people probably, if you care about that, are people going to see the most, or which room would, if you organize your home office first, that's going to have the biggest effect on your daily life because that's where you're working and spending most of your time. So do that analysis in your firm. What needs the most help? What's the pain point with your clients or your staff? And just tweak that first and just do a little bit. You won't solve it overnight. And even if you can, it's impossible because this area is moving so quickly. And I don't say it to scare anybody or intimidate anyone. It's a lot. But little differences can really, really help. And I just encourage you to keep working through it. And again, what Nadine said about, I'm a MyCase user of 10 years. They're very helpful. You can reach out. And if something in what you're using doesn't work, there are options even off of legal software that may help supplement what you're already using. But this is an exciting time to practice law. And I'm excited. I would say I'm excited to see what the future is like, but it seems it's already in the present. So let's see what happens tomorrow is my new expression. So thanks for having me, Nadine. It was nice to meet you through this webinar. And Laura, as always, you put on such great content. So thank you for having me and letting me say hi today. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Emily, thank you so
much.
Delighted to have you. And you brought up some great points. First of all, that you want to plan time to go over your processes, to think about it, to doing it step by step. As Emily says, poco a poco, little by little. You don't have to do it all at once. You can do incremental adoption. Think about what needs it the most. And Emily said, things are changing so quickly that can be scary, but moreover, if you would look at it as exciting, there's so many new features that are coming out that will be able to help you. I think it's a really exciting time. So Emily, we're so glad that you joined in. Thank you. And Nadine.
So much. And thanks everyone for all of your great questions and comments. So yeah, and thank you, Laura.
All right, so we will close up. We want to thank you so much for your time. This was such an important discussion today. Great topic. Nadine, you gave wonderful information. Want to thank the engaged audience. And again, if you would like a consult, you can go to lclma.org or masslowmap.org. We have free consultations. As Nadine mentioned too, if you're using some of these systems already and you're finding it challenging, do look on the vendor support page too. A lot of them now are being very helpful, and they'll have not only articles, but short videos and how to use the features. So a lot of great training opportunities out there. So thank you all so much, and I wish you a great afternoon. And Nadine, thank you again for being with us.
Always love being here. Thanks so much.
All right, bye everyone, take care.